On a cold and rainy night at the local police station, Han Sairong tells the officers about how her husband acted the night before. When the officer asks what exactly was different about him, she explains that while they slept together, he acted differently than he had during their 2 years of marriage. The next day, while neighbors packed up, she barely noticed, but her husband wanted to talk about last night, apologized for his actions, and suggested they wait until after work. Yet before he left, a strange silence fell over them where their eyes met, and she realized that even though she was blind, he wasn't smiling like he usually did. She remembered her doctor's warning that doubting everything was a bad sign, and her fear grew when her husband, who usually came home early, hadn't answered the 8 p.m. alarm. It was nearly 4 a.m. and he still hadn't come home, which was strange since he usually finished work by 7 p.m. every day. That day, she kept calling his number over and over, only to hear the same message. His number was not available. The scary idea that something bad happened to him hung heavy over her head, causing her to accidentally cut herself. Soon she realized her husband was gone, so she went to the police, but the officer told her they'd have to wait until the next day to file a missing persons report unless it was a crime. Imagine trying to hide a violent attack as a simple missing person case. A plan that almost backfires when an officer notices the blood and knife on her coat before she nervously asks if admitting the blood belongs to her missing husband will help find him faster. A bond so deep that we must look back to understand how they met on a gloomy rainy day when she was 24, struggling with a failing eye, only to be met with kindness from her future husband, who gave her a cane to help her walk. He told her to go inside and wait out the rain, and she listened. Inside, she hated having to lean on her cane, even though she knew she had no choice but to use it. Those days were the hardest for her because she couldn't understand why she had gone blind and felt she didn't deserve this cruel fate. So she tried to make up for it by following every order, taking a job at a cafe that wasn't meant for her, and doing other good deeds. Soryong felt as broken and hopeless as a person who has lost their sight. She was lost in thought when he walked over with a steaming mug of coffee to help her warm up. Her world was almost dark until Hun brought the light back, and now we know how they met before heading back to the station where Sarong is stunned to learn that her apartment building's only occupied home is hers. He checked every house and found them all empty, realizing with a shock that she had no idea no one else lived there. She won't take no for an answer. She snatches the detective's coat and shouts that his story is impossible, pointing out she greeted people who walked by every day, so he can't claim no one was there. When an officer tells the detective that Kim Hyun isn't even on the building's list, it breaks her heart, and soon she realizes her 2 years with him were a lie. A month after he vanished, she sits outside church, remembering their final meeting with the officer. He stood at the station and told her to pull herself together. After she came around so many times that he stopped feeling sorry for her and even threatened to charge her with obstruction, she begged him to reopen the case and investigate one more time, but he explained it was impossible because the records were empty, which didn't stop her from pleading that her husband must have gotten mixed up with the wrong criminal group and was made to disappear without a trace. The detective gave her a stern warning to drop the case, reminding her that in the original file, she had lied by claiming her husband's blood was on her. He told her to accept she'd been tricked and move on, but she couldn't believe it because she knew it wasn't true. She asked why they cheated her since she lost nothing, but he could only say the only one who could answer her was the man who ran, leaving her wondering why she was even there until a priest urged her to rest, which she refused while warning him to stop fooling himself by believing in what he cannot see. She warns him not to end up as foolish as she once was, but he insists that he doesn't need to see it to believe it, and when she admits she doesn't know why they should believe, he questions if they even need a reason at all. It was her lack of an answer to that question that brought her to this place. She admits that though she never knew what her husband's face looked like, she loved him for no reason at all, seeing his warm, large hand as her only salvation and believing he was a miracle until he vanished like he was never there, only for his absence to finally teach her that she had been lucky, while the priest reminds her that coincidence might come from a higher power and that asking is the way to receive. After he shares a pamphlet for a private investigation team that she can't quite explain, Sarung gets her eyes checked and finds her sight is returning. A discovery so strange the doctor wants to share with the academic world, leaving her confused and wondering why it's happening. As her husband vanishes, the fog in her sight vanishes right along with him, proving it was never just a random coincidence. For the first time ever, the eye doctor is seeing something like this, and she knows for sure that Seong was told he had retinal trouble 2.5 years ago. It feels like a fleeting trick, yet she knows it's a mystery worth studying, wondering if someone secretly tapped into her optic nerve to switch off her sight on and off for 2 long years. With her husband no longer around and her new doctor having stepped in, she feels bad for not telling him earlier that Dr. Park has left for a job overseas. But as her vision clears, her mind drifts back to the day Hun showed her their wedding photo 2 years ago. Back then, she was still blind but wanted to know what he looked like in the photo. She wondered what face he was making and felt that if she could just see his eyes, everything would have been perfect. He promised he was smiling, even using her face to show how wide his grin was, and insisted they both looked happy in the photo. But now, staring at the empty space on the wall where their wedding picture should hang, she learns that her husband's license plate and the company he worked for were all fake. She tells the caller that since there is no villa to help identify him and the neighbors have vanished, she still wants to know if the team can find her husband. The investigator from the team, deciding to move slowly, asks her to start by talking about the missing neighbors and to remember every tiny detail she can about them, so she does her very best. Deep inside, she fights for a clear truth about her own marriage because she simply won't settle for guesses. A few days later, she walks into the team's base and asks if they found anything about her husband, but silence falls over them until Hyukana finally speaks up. With her voice at its loudest, she screams for an answer about the kind of scumbag Soryong is living with, and she curses him. Her colleague manages to calm her down, even though she can't figure out why he stays so cool while her sister-in-law is in trouble. And then Jong Pilgu steps in to introduce himself as the leader of the analysis team. Their company, named Blast, works as a private army for hire. The government has given them permission to serve in foreign war zones, and right now they are gathering at their company's errand center. He had promised to keep things short, only to shatter her hope by saying they couldn't help her, leaving Hyukana stunned and feeling like everything she believed was wrong. But when Sarang wonders why she can't help, she steps in to tell her side of the story. They found that every single thing she said about her neighbors, from their jobs to where they went to school, was a lie, but they made a costly mistake by missing one crucial truth. The dog she mentioned was very real. When they heard the news, they dug into it and found the dog was registered to an animal hospital under the name of a 67-year-old woman named Kim Yeonmi, even though the records didn't match Sayer Yang's belief that a man owned it, proving instead that they had been dealing with a different dog all along. They now have proof they are on the right path, so Hyukana shows it to her. After gazing at the screen for a while, she admits her blurry vision still won't let her see what's on it, which makes Suchena feel like she's being inconsiderate once again. While the long story is that old lady Kim Yeonmi has a son who definitely wrote the National Intelligence Service entrance exam. The field agents from that industry work undercover using fake names. He thinks her son passed the exam and slipped in as a neighbor working under Sarung as a low-level field agent. But before he can tell her more, she demands a clearer explanation. He then reveals that a black ops agent from the National Intelligence Service is behind everything, from the mysterious disappearance to taking over the whole apartment building. Only the top bosses know who the black ops really are, and they are experts at staying hidden and leaving no clues, but he warned that she can't be left in their care because if this is true, she will never find the man who tricked her. Far away, the same man is peeling off his disguise after another job that looked like a success, all while being watched by a camera that some staff members are scrubbing clean to keep his secrets safe. Even the staff who have watched him for years still find the act of him taking off his mask thrilling. To him, it feels like a snake slipping out of its old skin. Wang Chong-na casually chats with his team leader, the agent he's watching, to see if he made it out safely while describing how he ran away without looking back, terrified of being caught. While Li Win, also known as Maka, keeps chatting with Wang, he makes his way back to the team's base. Wang admits that after working with him, he stopped trusting anyone else but praises his amazing acting skills. One of Wang's favorite missions is the one where he played so convincingly that he made Win believe the target was actually in love. He is sure that Seryong, known as Owl, loved Maka and revealed that a month ago she made a huge scene at a police station by arriving covered in blood she said was from her husband, which made Win wonder whose blood it really was. It was clearly hers, but she used that fact to file a missing person report that instantly uncovered his fake name. Wang compliments Seryong for being cleverer than anyone thought and offers to show him the security camera footage she retrieved, but Win cuts in seriously to demand one good reason for him to watch it. He insists he never cared for her and never intended to marry her, treating her only as a target and playing the part of husband simply because that was the role he was given. He is thrilled that the pointless mission is finally done and can't understand why Wang is bringing up that miserable experience. He tells him never to look back on that mission or think about it again, but before he can scold him further, he realizes the young man is asking so many questions only because he's still shaken by having gotten intimate with the target, worrying that he broke the rules since Seryong is just a civilian. He is sure Wang will become even purer and begs him to stop talking about the owl. So Wang agrees and quickly shifts the conversation to Wuin's resignation letter before he angrily hangs up. He thinks his team leader is panicking, but he will still listen and kill anything connected to Seryong. Deep down, he hopes she'll soon forget the heartless man, but we know she won't, so right now she's meeting Hyukana at a cafe to talk about him. She told her she wanted to go to North Korea, and the analyst realized she actually wanted to defect there to prove she could handle the biggest threats by stepping up to international crime. She's already researching the best ways into the country and asked Hyukana for advice since she's from there, and she's excited to get Hyukana to play Fed. But her plan turns scary when she admits she wants to commit crimes and get caught by the NIS to lure in the man they can't find. A few days later, Seoryong drives across the Pai Unification Bridge into North Korea while soldiers chat nearby, and she thinks back to her puzzling talk with Yukana, replaying the song lyrics she sang when asked what would happen if they met after she was captured. A guard spots her charging at them like a spy and yells for her to stop, but she just keeps going. They rush to stop her before she can cross into North Korea, a place she actually wants to go, because she hopes they catch her quickly and take her to her husband, feeling she has done enough once she checks the rearview mirror and sees the officers have finally given up the chase. One is gasping for air while the other yells for a medic, and she's so fed up with the chaos that she's worried she'll accidentally slip into North Korea without anyone noticing. So lost in thought that she doesn't see where she's going, she crashes and lets the other soldiers catch her. They tell her she's under emergency arrest as she tries to calm down, relieved she didn't die like she feared moments ago. Once the dust clears, Seoryong is brought in for questioning, and 2 NIS agents from counterintelligence arrive to interrogate her, making things go mostly as planned. They tell her she is being charged with breaking national security laws and hurting military sites, and this news makes her smile. They try to scare her by telling her that nearby facilities will be closed until the investigation is done, but she shrugs it off as if it doesn't matter, insisting she didn't do anything wrong even though the agent says trying to break the law is still a crime. He also warns her to speak carefully, because everything she says from now on could decide if they press charges. His next question tries to find out why she ran away to North Korea. Since she stays silent, he moves on to the next question, demanding to know who Kim Hyun is, insisting that he read her file and that she mentioned the name during an earlier police investigation just hours before they took action. She tells them he's her husband, but he argues her records show her as single, then tries to find out if the man she disappeared was the one she mentioned or if he's the reason she wants to defect, until she suddenly recites a phrase he always used, making the men panic, after which she reveals she meant to report a spy who was supposedly her husband but didn't know his name or face, so she asks them to find out for her. She says her husband ran away, but they must keep an eye on him or else they're in big trouble. She tries to use her spy skills to make them crack, but even though they think she's on them, they hold strong, and just as she's not finished talking, a call from the deputy director comes in. As the NIS agent answers the phone, she glances around the room, feeling like someone is watching them from the outside. As the call ends and the agents stand up to finish up the case, they decide to close the investigation here, noting that her escape attempt gets tossed out due to her unstable mind, though she still owes a 10 million fine for breaking military equipment, leaving everyone wondering how she thought anyone in Woo's office would ever hand him over. Though she refuses to accept their decision and demands they dig deeper, they ignore her pleas and thank him for his cooperation. So she drops her act and openly accuses them of trying to cover something up. She thought the spy-catching team should be better at their job than they actually were. Far from them, she vows to smash the mirror in the interrogation room if the person watching her doesn't step out. She hates the thought of someone playing hide-and-seek while she is left out of the game. Finally, the men try to force Seoryong to stop her joke, but she snaps when they call her a liar while hiding the truth about Woo. All she wants is a simple checkup, yet the agents mock her by asking if she's taking her medicine, claiming she stopped and is now imagining her husband left her, which confuses her since she feels fine and has no idea what they're talking about, even when they say they spoke to her doctor, until she finds a paper on the table revealing it's her medical record from Heenam Psychiatric Hospital, the very place she's been visiting since childhood. The next stop on her journey, isn't it? Inside the hospital room, her doctor is fast asleep while the news about her wild stunt plays on the TV. Soon she arrives and wakes him with a surprise gift, shocking him not just by her presence but because she can actually see. When he asks about her eyes, she casually replies that they are getting better and that she's lucky it wasn't something incurable. She brews tea for them, but it doesn't calm him, so he tries to talk to her, only to make a big mistake by asking about her husband, whom she tells him ran away even though she had been kind, gentle, and obedient just as he taught her to be. She acted like a playful puppy, soft and sweet, but that wasn't enough. The more she opens up, the more he feels uneasy, but she doesn't mind because she always tried to live a good life, even after quitting gymnastics and getting kicked out of school. She took a caregiving job, and now she's here, confused about how it all went wrong, wondering why people bring kids into the world only to leave them, promise love, and then run away. But mostly, she still can't figure out why that kind doctor cut her with a knife. The old man panics and tries to dodge her questions, but she sees right through him. To scare him even more, she mentions how the mafia once killed traitors by serving them poisoned black tea, and when he doesn't know if he's holding a deadly cup, he drops it, frantically coughing as if he's about to die while she doesn't care at all. She's trying to find out if he really thinks she's crazy and who gave him the idea to say that, especially since she suspects it might be about her husband. She kicks the doctor in the gut, demanding he spill the truth, but he is stuck because he genuinely knows nothing. He says he only listened because they promised not to hurt her, so she believes him, lets him leave, and takes a sip of the same coffee she made for him, leaving him looking like a total fool. When she asks where the people who confronted him came from, He quickly replies that they were from a government group and even left behind a business card for a publishing company. Suddenly, she remembers that these people wear disguises. She's just clinging to the stubborn hope that her husband is still alive. But every time she looks for him, her quiet refusal to see the truth starts to fall apart. Manhwa was like a spider waiting in a web for a long time, but she was too blind to see it. She constantly beats herself up for being so naive. As she steps out of the doctor's office, she tells him that today will be the final time they meet. He taught her to wear a mask of kindness, but he doesn't get what Surong means until she tells him she's finally decided to tear that mask off his face. She dreamed of a kind life filled with love, but realized that nothing was ever true, not even her marriage, so she clung to her happiest moments as the only real thing, and if those moments were just a trick, then her honest self was the only free thing left in a world of lies, so she said goodbye to him. Even after she threw away her mask and faced the truth, the ghosts of her old love still kept her awake at night. By morning, she heads to the cafe to meet Yukana and asks if Seryong took the bullet. She explains that while she didn't get hurt, her wallet took a massive hit, and Chana is upset about losing 10 million and wonders if she was called for another crazy scheme, which turns out to be even crazier than before. She doesn't know anyone in this situation, yet she dreams of kidnapping a VIP to force the government into sending a high-ranking negotiator. A wild plan that accidentally matches a real Kalwoon is trying to ignore, while his tattoo artist watches him pretend to be on his way back. She wants to talk about the note where he quit his job. It is incredibly rare for them to lose someone with his experience right when they just lost 2 intelligence agents. She wants to know if he truly believes she will accept a badly written resignation letter full of excuses, especially right now. He said he was sick in the mind, but she wants to know exactly what kind of sickness he has. He tries to say he's been crazy all this time, but she still doesn't believe him. She wants to know why he quit his mission, but he just says it's because his mental illness is so bad that even when he's home, he can't leave his face without wearing a silicone mask. At first, he thought it was just a work problem, but the hospital says he has a disorder called obsessive-compulsive disorder that has broken him so badly he now picks at his own face and dreams of a faceless monster. Even though he'd love to return, he says the new tattoo on his skin means he can never spy again. She yells at him for messing with his body, which really belongs to the state. Wu tells him that if he's done with her calls, he should stop because he's sick of wearing that face, and when he seems uninterested, she tries to spark his interest by reminding him of the document he's been chasing and asking if he's just going to give up. But he hasn't given up. After a decade of constantly changing his face, he's finally the first to feel tired, having failed despite caring for Seryong and ending up with nothing, which leaves him frustrated until she finally understands and promises that once she leads the NIS, she'll let him use his real name and face, a promise that convinces him right before she asks for a special favor involving Blast Corporation that doesn't require a mask. As Seryong and Yukana chat at the cafe about kidnapping, a friendly barista watches them, unaware that Seryong's old Blast Corp training is mixing with Yukana's heartfelt advice about her lost sister, leaving Seryong with a dangerous new idea. At Blast Corp, there are plenty of men. She hopes that living and working with them will help her forget the man who hurt her, gain her freedom back, and use their strength to back up her kidnapping plan. By playing her cards right, she sees an opportunity and suddenly decides to verify that Pelegu is indeed the head of Blast Corporation and her brother-in-law, which surprises Seryong until she realizes her sister-in-law intends to use their family tie for her own gain. So she meets Pelegu privately to get her scheme moving. She begins her dark scheme by bringing up his connection with Yukana, but when he stays quiet, she reveals that she brought him there to cause him trouble. So she plays a recording of her past conversation with his sister-in-law from before she tried to cross into North Korea. She plays her final card by hinting that if Yukana gets caught crossing the border, she'll drag him and his sister-in-law down, threatening to claim she helped Yukana escape and exposing that her brother-in-law Pilgu is a former spy while mocking him as a lover boy housing escapees and wanting to marry one, which forces him to ask what she wants, only for her to reveal she's already figured out that the military-grade company he works for needs her since they lack manpower. But he flatly refuses to hire her because she doesn't have the required military skills. He worries she might ask him to kill his 2 escapees before he even learns if she has any special military skills. Luckily, he finds out she means no harm, which only makes him worry she might be hiding something worse, but she isn't. She just wants a housekeeping job that she gets after a few days of interviewing, and thanks to his recommendation, she can start cleaning and doing laundry work on Monday. Her boss is thrilled to finally hire a young woman, even though most girls usually turn away from this kind of work. He is relieved that his team can finally train with her while she ignores the compliment about her beauty, instead worrying about hidden weapons near the soldiers. So he promises that guards will keep her safe, even though he still doesn't truly know her. She isn't scared. In fact, she thinks he's the one who should be afraid, and no matter what Seryong says, it won't change how the interview ends. That's why she heads home from work, worried the road ahead is too long, only to be surprised by a call from Yukana who, after holding her brother-in-law hostage, asks if she has finally joined the company after her interview. While talking on the phone, she walks right past her vanished husband Win without realizing it, which is quite funny since they almost bumped into each other at the very start of this trip. For a whole month while she worked at Blast, they didn't fight again, and most of her days were quiet and calm as she did her job well enough that some of her coworkers actually started to care about her. One of those employees nudged her to wrap up and grab some food. That's precisely what she intends to do. As Sairang walks by a door, she can't resist peeking in to overhear the staff hyping up a special security team, which suddenly reminds her of the day Chana bugged her about her work struggles. She quickly changed the subject to Chana, noting she hadn't seen her as often at work, and mentioned their new boss was a jerk, the same way one of the guys described it, which could mean Chana is part of the special security team. It's the only group she can't get any info on, and even what they do is a complete secret. Suddenly, her thoughts are cut short as an employee tries to start a fight, threatening to beat someone up just so he can get chosen for the special security team, and it looks like he's about to lose control. As the non-military staff ran away, only Sorang stayed to help Mrs. Kim after she got hurt, accidentally spilling food on the guy who started the fight, which made him furious while she just reminded him that lunch was over, and right before she got scolded by the manager for being reckless in a place meant for combat troops. She insisted on checking on Mrs. Kim, but he refused because the angry man she annoyed might come after her. He tells her to back off for now before sending her on her way. As she dries off with the towel he'd thrown her and walks toward the elevator looking down. She wonders if saving Mrs. Kim will mean she has to wait forever to kidnap the deputy director or find her husband. She wonders if she should come up with another plan, but she knows there's no better way than this. She pushes all her worries aside just as the elevator doors swing open. Since the elevator is already full, she has to wait a bit longer while Win, also known as Kim Hyun, rides up. He knows who she is, but stays calm and holds the elevator door for her to enter. When she doesn't move, he snaps, tells her to go away, and shuts the door right after their eyes meet. Our heroine overhears two people talking about their new team leader, who they claim spent years in Africa, enlisted straight after turning 18, and rose through the ranks incredibly fast. He's only 31, but he's already a dangerous force with a stack of amazing tricks under his belt. Our girl keeps moving forward with her cleaning, but the thought stays stuck in her mind. That team leader was a total nightmare. Later, Han Ser-young gets into a fight with that hot-tempered agent and orders her to wash his clothes for what feels like the 100th time. The agent insists the clothes still smell like food waste even though it's been a week since she poured it on him, but our female lead finds it strange since she's washed it countless times. When he asks if she knows his name, she points to the training uniform and tells him she can read Hangul, and as he stares at her with a saucy smile and messy thoughts, she just stands there looking weirdly confused. The hot-headed agent asks if she has any trouble with her eyes or anything else. Out in the blue, she bluntly asks if he wants to sleep with her, leaving him stunned by her honesty, and when she asks again, his shameless desire turns his face bright red as he loudly declares he wants to lay with her, only for her to coldly refuse, call his taste peculiar, remind him she has a husband, and then calmly leave for the shower room just as he screams in disbelief at her husband claim one last time. Our female lead confidently agrees and bolts out, leaving the fiery agent standing all by himself. Han Ser-young walks toward the shower room. She carries a lot of weight as she strides onward. Her eyes spot something. A man is standing in the shower. Can you guess who it is? Lee Woo-shin is shocked to see her but stays calm and invites her into the shower, leaving her wondering when he got in since she heard no sound. He tells Han Ser-young to get out before the other agents arrive. She pulls her cap low to hide her eyes, but something catches her gaze and makes them light up with recognition. He complains that her obvious staring is embarrassing, but she steps right up to him and studies his form like it's the most amazing discovery, until he finally realizes what's happening. His eyes go wide as he sees her, and hers do too, making them both wonder if they really know each other. Lee Woo-shin looms over Han Ser-young, asking why she is in the men's shower. Our girl kept her face steady, staring him right in the eyes as if it were completely normal to be in the shower with a stranger. A few seconds passed in silence before she mumbled an excuse and tried to slip away. Right then, as that happens, other agents burst into the shower room and make a huge racket. As the agents talk about Sung Wook-chan's rude behavior toward our female lead, our male lead leans in closer to Han Ser-young, even though she gently asks him to step back while he begs for just a few more seconds to figure out how to handle this awkward situation. He points out just how absurd it looks, knowing he'd have no answer if his colleagues asked him about it. One agent shouts to his team about a colleague leaving a name tag in the bathroom, while Lu Shin tries to remove her face cap to get a better look, only for her to gently say she's just there to cook and do laundry, which makes Han Ser-young go on the defensive by claiming it's no big deal to see someone naked, leaving him looking completely bewildered. Our heroine looked completely uncomfortable as he questioned her about the wild idea of a naked team leader and a maid sharing the shower room, a scandal that would shake the whole organization. The main guy lets her know he's not happy about her staring at him. Her eyes catch something strange. Soryong flips the switch and bolts out of the shower room, leaving Woo-shin alone with his thoughts. Without a doubt, he knows her, and now she's caught his attention. Later, the team leader calls the tech guy to check on what he's found out about the blast group. Our male lead wants to know why Owl has shown up. He doesn't seem happy talking about it, though. As clouds of trouble gather over Wanchong while the team leader pushes him for details on Han Sarung, he quickly clicks through her files to find out that the woman known as Owl joined Blast a month ago to work in the kitchen and laundry. Wanchong can't believe she knows the team leader without a mask and hears his voice, while the tech guy is super excited to learn about Han Sarung. He then tells the boss that Owl got caught while trying to sneak across the border into North Korea. After the agents questioned her and decided she was a spy, they let her go without giving her any trouble. The news makes the man look tense. Han Sarung is the kind of person who stays alone in his stories, always soft and gentle. A woman whose life of moving around has turned her bored. Sarong cares for Lee Woo-shin more deeply than anyone else he knows. She is kind and loyal, a bright light in his dark world, and while he says she is no threat or spy, the agents on comms think her husband's disappearance may have dulled her skills. The tech guy steps in to say it's a relief that no one cares about Owl or her husband, Kim Hwan, anymore. The boss isn't convinced, so he orders an investigation to clear up every last doubt. Lu Shin stares into the empty space, wishing everything would just end so Han Sarung could vanish, while she tries to chop carrots as if her mind isn't still miles away. Han Sarung couldn't stop thinking about the man she saw naked in the shower, and just recalling it made her shiver with excitement. She remembered his shape and thought of Kim Hyun, until her coworker called out and snapped her back to reality. The lady asks if our girl can make a quick delivery to feed their field agents. But Han Soryong worries about her husband, thinking he's too different from Kim Hyun to handle it. Our heroine steps toward the car and finds Lee Woo-shin waiting to drive her on a mission to feed his fellow soldiers. The young man's cheeky grin stretched wide as he hopped into the car with her, already buzzing with the promise of an exciting adventure to the site. For some reason, she felt his face in the shower room looked familiar, but it still didn't ring a bell. She knew he was the new team leader because what happened in the shower room proved all the rumors she'd heard were true. Inside the car, he looks at her and asks how hard her job is, and she smiles and says she can handle it. Wyan wanted to figure out how well she knew team leader Young Pilgu, since he had asked her for a recommendation. Our girl had no reason to tell him more about her link to Pilgu, but he kept pushing for an answer. Lee Woo-in says he's just stepping in for Mrs. Kim, who's stuck in the hospital after hurting her back. Once again, our guy asks our girl for the truth, and she realizes he's threatening to drag her away on a business trip unless she answers correctly. So she agrees even though she's furious, and then Han Soryong reveals she knows team leader Young Pilgu personally, only for our male lead to confirm he knows Pilgu has a family, and then drop a question that leaves her stunned. Lu Shin asks if she has a thing for married men, causing her to explode with pure rage, while Lee Woo-shin calmly admits he doesn't talk much but will be upfront, leaving her backed against the wall by his questions, cheerful attitude, and steady composure even though she hates being in the car right now. Han Soryong spills the beans, revealing that she knows young Pilgu's sister-in-law better than Pilgu does himself. Lee Win questions if she knows that Chana is an expert hacker. He warns that Pilgu's sister-in-law is a real menace, recalling a wild 2016 event where hackers nearly stole $1 million from the State Bank of Bangladesh. They found out the North Korean government was behind it all, centered around a 16-year-old girl named Chana, and now his curiosity is fully piqued. He wants to know how she came to meet such a special talent as Pilgu's sister-in-law. Han Sairong kept her cool and refused to spill a single secret about her personal life to him. He guesses she's too uncomfortable to talk about it. Maybe because our girl had Chana illegally dig up someone's personal information and stayed silent for a while. He went ahead to tell her he'd just write the list of overseas trips, even though he knows just how crazy and dangerous that Special Task Force's team trip is for someone as weak as her, speaking with a cunning smile like a villain laying out his master plan to a helpless victim. Lee Woo-shin gives up trying to argue and just pleads with her to be honest so he can stop her from going on that trip and suffering. His words made her mind race with scary ideas of all the terrible things they could do on their trip, shaking her to her core. Lee Woo-shin stares at Sarung with a blank face, trying again to get answers out of her. And she's thrilled because that's exactly what she wants to hear. Han Seer-young stares with wild eyes, calling the NIS useless for failing to hire Hukana and begging him for his take, proving our female lead is truly not normal. They reach their destination, where our guy leans back in the car to cheer her on, but Han Seer-young walks past him without a word, tired of his drama and wondering if she should have been meaner back in the car to finally get her name on the list for a trip abroad, where she hopes to find a real ally. A guy steps up and tugs her out of her daydreams. He's the one sent to grab lunch for everyone. He thanks her for the meal and warns her to be very careful on the way home. She starts to turn and go, but something tugs at her to stay. She could smell Kim Hun's scent on him, and it was far too strong to ignore. The man walks forward until he spots someone following him, so he stops right there. He turns toward her and asks her something. She begs him to ignore her and watch her eat his lunch for a special reason. Honor says she's only curious about his food and promises to be quiet, but the young man refuses and warns her that the kitchen is noisy and dangerous. The young man asks for her number to call her later while staring at her with intense desire, recalling how she earlier scolded the NIS for failing to recruit Yukana and Lu Xin's quiet reply before he asked if she really lost her savings, to which she said the truth was worth far more than any money. He shrugs it off to break the tension and asks if Yukana has helped catch the criminal, but Hunarong can't make sense of it and wonders if he actually cares about her husband. Li Wuxin acts like she's got the bad guy figured out, even though she hasn't caught him yet. With things falling apart, he realizes he probably misread Hanong and didn't think she was as strong as she really is. Our hero woman shows everyone she isn't going to stop looking for her husband until she finds him. She won't rest until Kim Hun is found and punished, but right now her eyes are locked on the agent she just fed, carefully studying him in her mind. She turned down his request for her number and slipped away, feeling a heavy ache in her heart because she truly missed Kim Hyun. The shame makes her hate her husband more, yet even as she rages with murderous thoughts, her heart still aches so badly for Kim Hyun that it nearly breaks her. While Li Wuxin calmly walks up to ask about the agent who handed out the food just moments before. She notes that he promised to wait in the car, yet he insists his curiosity was too strong for him to stay put. As Hansoryong smiled and talked, his anger grew and boiled inside him. His blank eyes hiding a dark, twisted joy are starting to drive her crazy. Especially now that Kim Hun is gone and all this built-up pressure is making Sairang's mind wander to strange and wrong thoughts. Standing across from Lu Xin, her mind is a million miles away, while she stays completely silent despite all his questions. She erupts in a long speech about how much she misses her husband, Kim Hyun, despite being furious that he tricked her, and she admits she followed the agent earlier just because of his scent. Our male lead couldn't make sense of her rambling, so she just kept walking past him, muttering that the strange scent had caused her the wildest reaction. It made no sense to him, yet he kept staring at her as she spoke freely, until Li Wuxin finally figured she must be high on something hard. Later that day, in the car, Hanarang refuses the sympathy, insisting it's too soon to give up on finding someone like Kim Hyun, a confidence our male lead struggles to shake. She is certain she will find her husband someday, so our male lead, who is actually the very man she secretly longs for, introduces himself as head of the special security team while they drive off together, unaware that the truth lies just beneath the surface and they still have a long road ahead. Our hero doubts she's smoking pot, which makes her furious and storming off while demanding to be added to the business trip list, only for Lewin to try to argue and get hit by a bursting egg that leaves her stunned. The anger of the marchers roared forward, with protesters shouting at the top of their lungs while holding up their cardboard signs and posters. As more eggs fly at our heroes, Han Sairong grabs the male lead and they break away from the ambush, with him still asking one last time if she wants marijuana while she ignores him because they're being chased by angry protesters. Honorary Yong insists she doesn't use drugs. They reach the car, and our male lead repeats her words about her eyes rolling back while she quickly tries the door handle. Li Wuxin needs her to help him make sense of it all. She spoke urgently to tell him that his husband's scent is what drives her wild. Hans Yong leans in and grabs the keys, his eyes wide because he knows the armed protesters are getting closer with every wasted second. Win clutches the egg tightly, then crushes it into a cloud of shell and yolk with a powerful fist. He showed how odd it is to chase a stranger just because of a smell. She says the man she followed smelled like trash, and he thinks she's untrustworthy because she's twisted. Han Saoryong knows that the smell she is chasing isn't just any man's, but definitely her husband, Kim Hyun's. Sairong proudly tells Li Wuxin that her perfect, spotless husband has nothing to do with how well she works. Our hero pauses to think before deciding what to do next. It looks like she's coming along on the mission to Bangkok after all, a few days later, where the agents have arrived to handle this business trip that is more like a secret operation. It turns out they're here to guard a drug kingpin who made billions, a fact written in their secret contract. Yet our female lead still stops Li Wuxin to double-check the details. To truly grasp how wild this is, imagine a client who made more than 10 trillion in their own money, earned a top spot on Interpol's Red Notice list, yet managed to dodge capture for a full decade thanks to their special ops team. One agent asks if Hanurong loves money, and she quickly replies that she doesn't care about cash at all. He figures she'll likely quit once she returns to the job, knowing that most people dealing with dangerous criminals just want the easy money until they finally panic and flee. Our female lead just shrugs it off, starts cleaning up like nothing's wrong, and leaves her agent amazed at how relaxed she is. Honorary Yong gives a knowing smirk and calls the place a gold mine, leaving him utterly confused and lost about what to do next. Our girl sees this as a gold mine that the NIS would dream of, and she's happy because the company is even worse than she expected. Later that night, someone crept up behind her and asked about the NDA again. Li Wuxin looks away and nods, confirming she signed the non-disclosure agreement. He thinks she knows what kind of work they do, so he can't figure out why she's still cleaning her room, while Win wonders if she suspects the place is dirty and wants to know why she's staying in such a mess. Han keeps her face straight, sighs, and tells him she's just cleaning up the terrible mess here. Her reply leaves him stunned, and he insists that her only role here is to help with the awful things they've arrived to do. Sarung says she's just there to cook for the guys selling drugs. He shows that people can actually be taken out in their line of work. He's beginning to get annoyed because she's treating their job too casually. Han Sairong insists it was his choice to hire her, but Li Wuxin is furious that she just wants to cook and clean, calling her attitude crazy and acting like a housewife. Lu Xin looks pretty mad and keeps a straight face because she is just as annoyed with him. He walks away, leaving her to wonder how awkward it always feels when they run into each other. She's finding it hard to keep going, but she knows this place holds so much treasure that she refuses to let it slip away. Honor Young acts the part of a lively maid perfectly, even curiously asking what he'd like for breakfast. And with her mind full of new plans, she's determined not to leave Lu Xin. Later on, our girl goes shopping with an overly excited Yukana. It's like the young hacker is just a kid on a field trip, staring wide-eyed at everything around her. China warns Honoryong that deadly men are right around the corner, but our female lead just laughs, which leaves the hacker stunned. Sairang feels happy because she knows her husband, an NIS agent, would surely hate to see her in this place. Puchana shows just how terrifying our heroine looks when she turns evil and flashes that wicked grin. The hacker couldn't believe Hansarang was still hunting for her husband after hearing how perfect their time together was, leaving her stunned as she watched our girl lost in memories. While Hans Yong insisted, she sometimes feels he is right beside her. Even though it sounds silly, she wants to know if Huchana thinks she's gone completely crazy over her husband disappearing. The hacker speaks her mind plainly, convinced that Han Soryong is living in deep doubt about whether her entire reality is real. A stranger casually walks up to our heroine to compliment her stunning looks, and she is completely lost. With no answer coming, she asks Chana for help, and finally, Han Seryong accepts the gift from the little kid. She clutches her beaded bracelet, suddenly feels a terrible wrongness, and instantly drags Hukana away from the danger to get back home. In a different spot, team leader Wuin and Hukana are together while the hacker is busy working on her system. He watches from the sidelines as Chana insists she only needs 7 minutes at most, so he immediately jumps in to start talking. He questions her role in Han Soryong's case. The hacker isn't worried at all because she knows she made the right choice, and Li Wuxin promises that they will all do this terrible job together. Caught up in serious drug deals and tasked with finding a way out, he wants her to handle it despite her thinking it's a terrible idea. But she stays calm while Chuna insists it's just their usual work and nothing new. Li Win stays cool and calm, doing his very best to figure out who Hansuri Yang really is. He made sure to bring the owl along for the journey. He had hoped she would arrive in their cruel, lawless world and then leave of her own free will. Win couldn't remember how their marriage used to be, when she was always kind but worried all the time. Because he'd been tricked by her before when she played the part of his wife, Lu Xin thought she was easy to control, but he's slowly realizing she only lets Kim Yoon push her around, and while she looks normal to others, she feels like a ticking time bomb ready to explode at any moment. The hacker gets angry and starts to worry that the team leader might have finally figured out Han Soryong's big secret plan. The young lady fears their plan might already be ruined. If her university gets caught by this young man, things will get very bad, because he just stares down Hukana confused about why Han Seryong acts so casually while serving breakfast to criminals like they are her own family. The words leave the hacker speechless while Lu Xin rambles on about how seriously wrong he thinks things are with Hans Yong. He says the guy who cheated her out of her cash is just total trash. He decided in his heart that our heroine must have gotten mixed up with some terrible scum to be so seriously dramatic. Huchona rages as Rain's curses at Kim Hyun, warning that she'll ruin him the next time they meet, before he throws himself into his work with intense focus. She admits that she brought Han Soryong here just to set him up with a fit young guy, hoping to spark a romance that would finally help her move on, and now she's had quite enough of the whole situation. With her work already finished, the team leader tells her to leave, and as she walks away, she can't stop wondering why the leader cared so much about the girl before shrugging it off to go get some delicious ramen with Han Sarang. Our male lead stands all alone in the office, staring with intense focus, while later that day Huchana finished her ramen with Seryong and leaned back in her chair. So happy she had to rest, only to wonder why the field agents weren't back. So Hukana explained they'd be gone a while since they didn't know exactly what mission they were on. Next, she asks Seryong about how close he is to the team leader. Our girl looks shaken by the question and struggles to answer, but Chana just notices her uni looks away and shrugs it off to keep things from getting awkward. Chana happily takes over the dishes and cleaning, then kindly tells the girls to head upstairs and get some rest. As night fell, our female lead couldn't shake the uneasy feeling from her encounter with Yukana earlier. Something catches her eye, and a strange perfume scent draws her along like a magnet pulling a piece of iron. She was sure no one here smelled that strong, but her curiosity pushed her to follow the scent until she was so stunned by what she saw that Hanseong's eyes went wide with shock. Right before her eyes, she saw the body of an agent, and from the clean, powerful way they had been taken out, she knew a very skilled killer was responsible. Suddenly, a realization struck her. Why had they dropped their guard in the dark? And as she thought of Chana, fear washed over her. Soryong rushes to get to Chana's room. As she moves forward, she stumbles over the dead body of another agent. With her hands shaking, she carefully pulls the earbuds from the dead agent's ear, hoping to hear any living voice on the radio. Soryong shakes with fear as she tries to warn anyone who will listen that people are dead. While driving away in a different part of town, the team leader is shocked to hear his female lead's voice over the radio, where she urgently tells him that all the workers are dead and that a strange perfume scent hangs in the air. So he calmly asks for a full explanation. Lu Xin shakes his head and says there's almost no chance Yukana is still alive. He tells our girl she won't survive either because in their line of work, witnesses don't exist, so the team leader is being brutally honest and makes it clear that as an ordinary civilian, her only hope for life is to listen to him carefully from now on. First, she grabs a pistol from a fallen agent without hesitation, just as he instructed. Li Wuxin tells her to forget about Yukana for now and run for her life. He's sure that's the only way she'll survive, so Hanseong hesitates briefly before shouting orders over the comms for her to hurry up if she truly wants to live, hoping she'll follow his lead to escape the nightmare, but her mind is already drifting toward a different path. He gives her one final warning to run before it's too late, but Sarung feels the weight of everything pressing down on her. Leaving Yukana behind because he ordered her to wasn't an easy thing for her to do. It felt like Kim Hoon-ae was standing right in front of her at that very moment. Our girl says no to Woo-in's orders. Her eyes fill with tears as she screams at her imaginary husband, begging him not to leave, refusing to believe anything else. It wasn't Woo Jin and certainly not his wife. Hung Seer-yong rushes to Yukana's room, driven by real worry for her friend's safety. Win warns that people just like our girl, driven by weak feelings and acting like children, always meet a bad end. But Seer-yong immediately replies that she will be the first to break that rule. She is so sure she can survive even the worst nightmare that she scans the dark kitchen until she spots a bloody trail leading to Chana, who is lying hurt on the floor, causing Han Sairong to lean in and scream in pure horror at the sight of her friend nearly dying. China is still awake and begs Sairong to run away with her last breath. Our girl is acting difficult because she won't let Chana die alone here. Over the radio, Lu Xin quickly asks where she is and tells her how to handle the terrible cut on her neck. He thinks Chana is the one they really want to kill. The special ops team didn't realize just how important this hacker is to North Korea. The team leader is convinced the assassin began his mission the second she flew to Bangkok. The fact that the killer didn't kill her in one blow made it feel like this was only the start of something worse. Seer-yong couldn't figure it out, but Win thinks it's just a cruel trick to make them suffer. He's sure the attackers will be here any second now, and his words send Seerong into a panic because she can feel the danger closing in. Han-Seer-yong knew the killer was close, feeling their footsteps getting louder as they walked into the kitchen. She lies on the ground, holding tight to Chana's neck while staring at the door, waiting slowly for their nemesis to arrive. Over the radio, Win tells her to load the gun and get ready to aim. He warns that since it's her first try, she's likely to miss the mark. Yet he keeps pulling the trigger again and again, just hoping she finally hits something. He isn't offering any encouragement, and she hates that he has zero faith in her, not even a single bit. Our hero confirms he's nearly there, so Soryong steeling herself to wait out the approaching threat, while Li Wuxin speeds toward her in his car. Seer-yong, she began to wonder if everything she knew was actually real. Helping Chana while fighting a trained killer is getting too hard, and she's about to quit, but she grabs one more chance to keep going. A fresh resolve fills her, and she is now willing to do anything to keep Yukana safe. She jams a bullet in with her teeth, points the gun at the door, and knows someone is already there. A woman in red heels must be the assassin. On the radio, Li Wuxin keeps everyone calm and focused, telling our heroine to hold her aim and wait for the enemy to open the door before the assassin swings it wide, only for her to take them down with a burst from her pistol. Sairong stares straight at the door, her mind locked on how to make her plan work perfectly. The door bursts open, but she freezes because the woman standing there looks nothing like the cold-blooded killer she imagined, instead appearing as a cheerful blonde in casual clothes with a huge grin, looking just like a child on a fun field trip. The girl couldn't believe her eyes when she realized the blonde standing right in front of her was the killer. The team leader yells over the radio for her to fire, But Sor Young freezes just a moment too long, and suddenly her weapons are gone. The blondie's eyes went wild, looking like a hungry beast ready to tear apart anyone who got too close. Li Wuxin shouts for the girl, but she stays silent and gives no answer. The blondie smashes the earbuds to shut down the team leader's connection forever. Now she stands tall above Hansoryong, having just slashed Yukana with her blade, and I can't help but think our hero has met her match. Even though things look terrible, Sairong wouldn't loosen her grip on Chana's neck, because she knew her friend's life was hanging by a thread. Blondie's eyes held pure evil, and every thought flashed through her mind. The workers lay dead as if a perfect murder had just happened, with a heavy perfume smell still hanging in the air. The city China, where our girl went out to meet prostitutes who lure tourists, is now a place where she has only seen hot pants and high heels over the past week. It's not normal, but after years of training, Sairong has built up wild, animal-like instincts, and now she feels nothing but pure rage aimed at the assassin, ready to let it all out. Our girl is ready to end this right now, but wait, didn't she just lose her gun? Han Zion insists that the blonde girl isn't actually a woman. Just as the enemy charges forward with his weapon, our female hero kicks the blonde man between the legs, leaving him reeling in shock from the sudden blow. Now that the enemy is right in front of us, our girl quickly loads her gun and fires. The shot hits its mark, Blondie falls, and Sairong wins against a trained assassin, proving that miracles can happen. The agents finally reach the spot and get a clear handle on the situation. As they arrived, they found Sairong had fainted, yet her hands were still squeezing tight against the wound on her face. Li Wuxin stared at her, totally overwhelmed by her sheer power and unbreakable will. His men tell him the killer isn't a woman but a man who slipped inside the building by pretending to be a prostitute. Apparently, Sairong had thoroughly crushed him, but Win now stares at Hanarayang, realizing she is a strange, unknown woman who bears no resemblance to the kind wife Sairong used to be. Later, Sairong's eyes slowly opened. Li Wuxin sits right next to her. Our girl sits up in bed, noticing the clothes wrapped around her wounded arm, while he shows concern for her well-being before teasing her. He spent time watching her while she was out cold, and he says he's just curious about everything she said before the accident. The team leader had no intention of petting her. He didn't even say a single word to praise her for a job well done. He's ready to answer any questions she has, knowing she's already got plenty. The first thought in her head was Chana, and since she'd already guessed he hadn't made it, she couldn't bring herself to ask. To Wu's shock, she learns that Chana is still alive and breathing in the ICU, even though she isn't waking up. The medical team rushed her straight into emergency surgery because she was in such bad shape, but it was wild to see her push through 2 life-or-death moments and survive, proving beyond a doubt that she is a true survivor. Our guy tells Sairong that she's been missing for a full week as well. He shows her the hurt arm and explains that she won't be back to her normal life until it heals. Li Wuxin asks about her husband, which makes her furious, because he reveals that despite his research, he found neither her husband on the family register nor listed as an emergency contact, making the situation very strange. He begins to doubt her claim of having a husband, knowing Lu Xin is a true tormentor who is cruelly tearing her apart and taking great pleasure in the pain he's causing her. Sairong doesn't care about the teasing, so she tells him to leave her alone since he's really annoyed her. He turns away from her plea to ask about the pain in her gums instead. She tells him about the desperate fight for her life, while he scolds her for the foolish decision she made, warning how a tiny mistake with the gun could have turned everything into a disaster. She holds her cool and steady even when things get tough. She feels safe since nothing went wrong. So when she speaks, he bursts out laughing and starts asking her what her husband thinks of her. He wants to know if her supposed husband realizes that she is not just stubborn but utterly crazy, and he calls her a self-righteous fake. She stays cool and reminds her husband that he has no clue what she's really like because she never shows him that side. She insists her husband is perfectly happy just gazing at her pretty face. Sairong tells him she saved Chana because she has a good heart. She didn't hide that she felt bad for Chana, but her true goal was to prove Lu Xin and Kim Hyun wrong by showing that abandoning someone is never right. So she stood her ground and called it a smart choice instead of a heroic act. Win's eyes went hard with annoyance as he remembered her helpless, unconscious face, while she somehow still clung to Yukana. Before he could reply, she already thanked him for his help. If he hadn't stepped in to help her, she would be in big trouble by now. The team leader did something weird, thanked her, and she was totally shocked because it was such a big surprise. He says she rushed ahead to make her own choices and ignore his orders, giving him a perfect excuse to fire her. But Sorry Young shouts back, demanding to know why. He gently pats her neck and reminds her how she went full assassin mode, firing a gun and taking a life as a civilian, making her feel uneasy as he leans so close over her. He shows her there's no escape from the mess she made, and even the big organization can't fix it. He tells her to brush it off as a bad dream and just let it go. Our guy keeps his face completely straight while laying out his plain truth at her feet, saying that offering her one last chance at a normal life is his final act of kindness, even though he speaks to her with zero warmth, practically calling her useless and just a useful chess piece in his big plan. Her endless arguing has finally worn him down, so without wasting another word, he tells her he never wants to see her again. A few days later, Han Sairong brought her to the hospital to visit Hukana. In the noisy ward, our heroine locks her eyes on her unconscious friend. Sairong fills Chana in on her job and the confusing mess of things lately, leaving her stuck like a brick wall and wondering if she's even real anymore. Suddenly, a voice from behind grabs her attention, revealing a man in the room who says he's truly amazed that she still has so much fire left after everything that happened. Sairong looks at him with clear displeasure and insists that he tell her his name. A bearded stranger says he owes her a huge favor and asks for her forgiveness for meeting her so late. A bearded man named Mr. Kong Tian, who runs a company called Blast, steps up to introduce himself, and while his true reason for wanting our female lead remains a mystery, we are about to discover what he really wants. After Tian sits down in the ward and chats with our female lead, he says he's finally decided to visit Sairong after all. Our girl couldn't believe a CEO would care about her, but he made it clear he was grateful she saved Hukana, because losing such a valuable hacker would have terrified him even more. Tun knew that if Chana wasn't back on her feet soon, his whole business would crumble, and hearing him mention all the hackers' contracts made Sairong wonder why the team leader wanted her to give up on someone so vital. She remembers how he called her useless, and that doubt made her question if what she saw was even real. Did he truly pick our girl to save instead of Hukana? CEO Tian showed up today just to say thanks for everything we've done for him. He tells her the company owes her a lot and asks if she wants anything. Then a week passes without a hitch and now they are at the police training camp in Nigeria. Li Win sat by the pool and watched the clouds drifting across the sky. He sits in the quiet, trying to relax, until someone suddenly screams and ruins the moment. A nervous Win subordinate rushes in, clutching a document that shows he's shaking with worry. Our guy shrugs it off, but his subordinate won't quit, showing up with the printed info he needs to share. Before Wu is willing to listen, he asks for some ice. His subordinate Jean Hodge isn't happy about the news, so our male lead grabs the paper and reads it aloud. It's an invitation to train new recruits, but since they just came back from Africa, they don't see it as a duty they should do. As the team argues endlessly about their feelings, the leader just stretches out in his seat and quietly listens. One of his men said that Hukana's death hit the whole team so hard they could barely go on. Jean Hodge feels completely shaken when he hears about the hacker's death. Green-haired Kin Tai Min soothes Hodge's frayed nerves while sharing the shocking news that their leader, Chana, is still alive. Li Wuxin waits for his moment to wake up while he's eager to finally get some real work done. Tae Min keeps reading the paper to tell the team leader that they have new members to replace those who were taken in the assassination, and Hodge is just buzzing with excitement about the fresh faces joining the squad. Time wasn't surprised, knowing exactly how new recruits turned out last time. Jin Hodge blames the passing of time for why the new recruits gave up. He remembers how his colleague forced the new recruits to drink themselves into a stupor on their very first day. Two guys argue fiercely, waving their arms and shouting until their voices are hoarse. The growing noise is starting to bother Wuen, so he stands up and tries to slip away from the two guys by the pool. One of the guys shouts at the team leader, and he freezes right where he stands. They both wanted to find out what sort of recruit Wuen would like. He took a moment to think, then told them he's not picky at all and has no real taste as long as the new guys don't annoy him, and everyone agrees that the one person who drives him crazy is Han Seryong. Our girl gets a letter inviting her to the new recruit training, and life sure does love a funny twist. CEO Taegon is on the phone talking about Han Seryong, saying he just found someone really interesting. A few days ago, our hero met the female lead at the hospital, thanked her for saving Huchichuna, and offered to help, only for her to laugh and say she just wants to kidnap the NIS deputy director as repayment, claiming she doesn't even need a reason for such a crazy idea while the CEO stares at her in shock. Sir Tian shakes his head sadly and tells her that even he can't do what Wilde is asking. He explains why he made his choice, warns her about the danger of getting caught up with the NIS, but insists that her help would be incredibly valuable to the special operations team. Over the phone, CEO Tian boasts about how tough Seryong is. No matter what happens, he's made his choice, and she looks like the perfect bodyguard to take the job they've been waiting for. Next, our heroine sits on a bench by the walkway, staring at the document in her hands, wondering if the recruit program sounds like such a hassle. She realized that walking straight ahead was her only chance to reach her goal, just as a pair of high school students passed by and caught her attention with their chatter. Seeing the high school girls, especially the one with crutches, reminds her of her own days there. Back then, she was all the rage, but then her luck took a turn for the worse. Seryong, once a gifted gymnast, was kicked out of school for the fierce rivalry. Yet when she walked back, the girls passing by couldn't understand why an expelled student was allowed to return. Han Ser-young pulled off a forbidden trick that made his teammate Ju Don angry, and when she tried to copy it, she slipped and crashed to the floor. During the fight, Doon's leg broke all the way through. It's not Sarung's fault, because Judo was the one who tried to copy a move she couldn't even do. It's wild that Sarung never liked gymnastics because he felt stuck by how many rules it had. Our girl figured it would be a lot more fun if she were thrown off the mat entirely, even though getting kicked out for a small mistake was one thing and being kicked out completely was another. But killing someone was just too crazy. Han Ser-young wants to live a wild and free life. In a world with no limits where anything could explode or fall apart, she stands up ready to fight every battle life throws at her, knowing that depending on anyone else is just a joke. She trusted only her own strength, making sure nothing was left to luck. So far, she's back to where she started. Now our heroine must face her next big test. Blast's tough new recruit training, which she is ready to tackle head-on. During recruit training, Han Ser-young sat right next to the angry agent and got so surprised to see her that he couldn't stop talking about it. The other new recruits hushed and whispered to each other when they saw the loud agent talking to our female lead. Even though our girl says she'd rather cook and do laundry, fate has its own plans for her. She looks at him and speaks of death, leaving him completely stunned. He shouts to look scary, but our girl stays calm. Sairang makes it crystal clear that she's done tolerating his tantrums and has zero patience for any nonsense. All he can do now is hurt her or force himself on her, but she doesn't like it when he gets so close. Her words hit his pride hard, leaving him furious, but before he could speak, someone stepped to the microphone and grabbed everyone's attention, revealing that our hero was the one on the podium, causing Ser-young's eyes to widen in shock at the sight of him. Lu Xin steps forward and tells the new recruits that he is the one who will be training them. The special ops team stands ready behind him, eager for the training, but he freezes mid-speech when he spots Han Yong in the crowd, her look stealing all his words. The team members behind their leader stare in silence, confused by Win's sudden quiet. His eyes are locked on Seoryang. Though he looks furious seeing her, he finishes his speech and later, after the orientation, he drags her away from the bus that's taking recruits to camp, insisting he never wanted to see her again and confused as to why she's even there. She tells him to let her go and even warns that she'll call the CEO right now if he doesn't listen. When Li Wuxin hears the CEO's name, he freezes mid-step and turns to her speechless, wondering what she's saying before realizing she knows exactly what she wants and holds all the power, leaving him shocked since the CEO, unlike Win, gave her a reward instead of shutting her down. Her confidence is so strong that he can't kick her out without first speaking to Mr. Tian. As the onlookers watch the scene unfold like a live drama, Lu Xin wonders if all this trouble is just about her husband. Seoryang doesn't argue, because the very thought of her speaking makes his blood boil. She asks him how he plans to stop her when he has nothing to do with her runaway husband. She meets the team leader's gaze and tells him she has no shame at all. She just wants him to train her like everyone else, but he wonders if her mission is truly about revenge or just a dangerous obsession. Sairong doesn't quite get what's going on, but she blurts out her feelings anyway. Some people carry regret, hold on to anger, feel deep love, or even plan to kill. He could name every feeling in the world for this moment, especially since things with her husband, Kim Hyen, are anything but simple to explain. He gazes at her for a moment, likely weighing his words, before finally speaking. Lu Xin steps in to offer the full truth, but I worry he won't be so honest. And while Li finally speaks up to warn that what we call love might just be a trick to make us feel less alone, the real answer is right around the corner. He warns her not to be fooled by her own feelings, telling her that the man she loves isn't even thinking about her, and that real revenge is simply living well and moving on. But she disagrees, believing that real revenge means making sure the man who hurt her can never find peace. So she refuses to listen to Li and demands to hear the truth straight from her husband. She remembers that Li always wanted her gone, and regretting her words. While in the men's dorm, Seong-wook stirs up trouble until a guy dares to ask if she can fight, only for her to reveal she was once the company's most beautiful maid, which turns the chaotic room into a strange mix of mess and fun until Li calls to stop the nonsense. One guy claims he can't share a room with a woman for fear something might happen, but Li scoffs at the idea and sarcastically wonders if he's worried about losing control, even suggesting the group was picked for lacking common sense and comparing them to immature boys who would refuse to work with women or protest having a female teammate. Li argues that treating a fellow agent differently is about stupidity, not desire, then asks her what she wants to do. When he offers to give her a separate room but notes none are available unless she shares with an instructor, she quickly declines special treatment and tells him not to go easy on her. He warns her of the difficulties ahead, asks if she plans to change clothes freely around others, and tells her to report any harassment immediately without him asking questions, which annoys Sang-wook but ends the argument. With tension still in the air, The instructor reminds everyone to return to training and warns that anyone who wants to quit should just ring the bell. Lee didn't even flinch, just made a sarcastic joke about her piece of sleep before picking her up without a second thought and walking her over to the others. She instantly realizes her hands and feet are tied and winces from the pain, but Lee calmly welcomes her to basic training at the blast unit, then without waiting for her to protest again, he shoves 2 men into the river while she watches in shock, turning back to her to warn Agent Han Sarong that there is no easy way out and no bell to ring if she wants to quit, and as he steps closer and stares right at her, he points out that she might as well try slapping him. She challenges him to throw her in right now and says she'll never back down, leaving him both surprised and impressed by her boldness. Lee wonders if she was always this cold or if marriage turned her heart to stone. She replies that she was like this even before,